This is a cant hook. It uses leverage to roll big logs by hand. But what happens when the logs are too big for a hook like this to move? Archimedes had the answer. He said, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it and I can move the world. So with that in mind, I made a bigger cant hook. Welcome to Mac Jackal. That old cant hook's about 4 foot tall. I went online just because I was curious to see how big of a cant hook I could actually buy, and 6.5 feet's about as big as you could find, so I made one that's 9 foot. Here's how I made it. I knew I needed a really strong piece of wood that could withstand a ton of force, but didn't really exceed 2¼ inch in diameter. So I went to the timber, and luckily here in Iowa, we have a bunch of ironwood trees, also known as Eastern Hophorn Beam, American Hophorn Beam. These things are so strong, I've seen oak trees fall on them, and they just bend over without breaking. So I knew this was the perfect candidate. I just had to find one that was nice and straight. Once I had the perfect handle, now I just needed a hook. Luckily the guy I worked for, Jim, he had this old cant hook that was broken that he gave to me. So I took it apart, which was actually quite a challenge because if you know anything about wood and metal, over time the wood shrinks and also the rust in the metal, they kind of fuse together. So I had to do a bunch of work, got the pieces separated, got them all cleaned up and prepped for restoration. And I also cut the hook because I want to add 2 inches in. Once it was all cleaned up and the rust was removed, I took my scrap metal, welded it all together, and now we've got the perfect hook, the perfect handle. So next I just need to skin the bark off of this wood. Then it was just a matter of cutting the handle to size, and I ended up painting the ends with some marine anti-fouling paint. I thought that might do a little better job. As wood dries, it dries faster out the end grain, so by painting the ends, I'm hoping to keep the checking and the cracks from the end from being so bad. So that's why I did that. I added a little touch, because as my son would call this thing, it's a big boy. Attaching all the parts. And here's the finished product. Now we just got to see if it works. If you want to see the entire build of this without listening to me yap about it and stuff like that, I put a 40-minute video up of the entire build. Go over and watch that next. See you in the next one.